So welcome to the third of our presentation skills series, Getting Your Message Across. This third session is in context, following our purpose and audience. Once we know who we're talking to and why we're talking to them, then what we need to look at is what are we going to include? What is our content actually going to be? So we need to start by a brief summary, if you will, about what the theme or the topic of the presentation is. They often say, that there are three different presentations. There's the one that we plan to give, there's the one that we actually give, and there's the one that we wish we'd given. So I hope by sharing my next session with you here that this will help you deliver something that's much closer to the one that you always hoped you would give. So let's hope that we can achieve that by the end of this session. So when we start, we've got our topic, we've got our theme, we know our purpose. So what happens next? The easiest option then is we start by brainstorming all the things that we could possibly include. Or maybe you prefer to mind map. Maybe you start in the central theme about the purpose of your presentation and branch out from there. Whichever way, you need to be as creative as you can to get all the relevant ideas that are possible. Once you've gone through that creative process, then we're going to use the three S's. These three S's say, which ones are we going to select? We can't use everything because you probably won't have enough time to do everything. So which ones will you choose? Which ones must you include? Which ones will you discard altogether? And which ones will you have as a just in case? So our first S is to select. The second S is sequence. What's the order that we should do these in? So what are the main topics and what structure should we follow in terms of sequencing? You might at that point start to think about how long should we spend on each of them, although some people would do that a little bit later on. So we're going to select the major categories, we're going to select the topics, we're going to structure them, we're going to sequence them, and we're going to make sure we have the right timing. Once we've done that, then finally we can think about what supporting evidence do we need to go with those ideas. Now let me show you how I typically do this, and the template for this will be available for you on the website if you want to have a look. So let me just show you what I call my horizontal plan for presentations. So this plan starts with a very clear statement about what our purpose is. I also make some notes about our audience. Then we move into the plan itself, where I actually include usually 3 or no more than 4 main topics. In this example, I'm going to use 4. We can typically only remember 3 or 4 things at any one time, and you can recognise that by if you ask anybody to repeat back their mobile phone number or their home number, they will always give it you in sequences. So if we ignore the 01 or the 02, it's 785, 850, 075. That's how people remember things. So by the way, that's our office number if you ever needed to ring. The 4 things we'd have in here then for my Getting Your Message Across presentation: purpose, audience, content, and finally format. Now under each of those headings then we'll take from our creativity, from our brainstorm or from our mind map and identify all of the subtopics that would go under each of these headings. Now if you use your mind map, you can do that instead of this horizontal plan, and then each of your legs of the mind map would have the relevant topics under it. So in the example we're going to use now, content, what we would write down is what, in other words, what is the content we've got to include, brainstorm, select and then of course discard, sequence, we put them in the right time scale, and finally we make sure we've got sufficient supporting information to cover everything that we need, including all of the evidence. Now, in addition here, we have intro, and if you were watching on our earlier presentation skills program, we look at interest, needs, title, relevance to the audience, and finally an overview. So we include an intro in there, and at the very end, we add our close in. Now, one of the things here is about timing. If we're going to do timing, we need to say, how long is this presentation going to last? And let's say the presentation is 10 minutes. It's very unlikely that we're going to divide it into equal parts, and we also have to take time out for the introduction and for the conclusion. So let's say we take 1 minute for the introduction, 1 minute for the close. That leaves us with 8 minutes. I'm not going to divide this in 2, 2 and 2. That's far too simple. Maybe our purpose is 1 minute, the audience is 1 minute, and then we have 6 further minutes. We'll put 3 for the content and 3 for format. So if I'm now going to think about timing, I'm now going to say, I've only got 3 minutes. How will I divide that 3 minutes amongst each of these sections? And then you prepare half a minute, 1 minute, and suddenly your whole presentation is no longer, I've got 10 minutes, what am I going to say? It's, I've only got half a minute, how will I fit it in? So when we think about content, to summarise, we need to think about structuring it, having selected the content, think about timing, think about sequencing, and make sure you have a really clear plan. And as I said, you'll be able to download this very easily from the website, but it's very basic, very simple, and I know it's going to help you enormously when you plan your next presentation. Thank you.